Hi, everybody. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome. So this was an extremely interesting thing to research and try and put together, because the very nature of the being that we are discussing doesn't want to be looked at directly. It's not the point. This angel wants you to find things and connect them and go from one place to the next, and follow it, in a winding, logical, semi-logical, spiritual way of gathering information. So when you've got something that's trying to make you look in all these other directions, I was trying to look directly at them, and that proved to be extremely difficult. The amount of insane, weird wormholes this spiraled off into while I was just trying to research this one angel, I can't even begin to tell you. And I was like, nope, keep going. I'm trying to find you. Who are you? And so we're going to try and answer that question. And then I would love to I'll discuss kind of who I think this being is. We'll see how one can find and call and befriend this being. And then I'd love to hear at the end if you guys have experienced this, which I'm sure you have, you just don't know it, and maybe what kind of relationship you may have to it and how to build it. So that's the goal for the day. Angels, what the fuck are angels? I really don't want to get into like going down the total sidebar of what the fuck are angels, but it's partially it's related, obviously, because this is an angel. The notion that angels are kind of like beautifully countenanced, beings, humans with like flowy robes and angel wings is not how they're experienced. And we have many firsthand accounts, if you will, of what angels are like. And I like this because you've kind of got several different versions of angelic beings here, right? You've got in kind of the bottom center, you've got Ezekiel's vision of the many headed beinged beast. And then there's the Ophalim, the wheels. There's God sitting on his throne. So this is referencing like Merkabah stuff of ascent through the different palaces and thrones. Because Merkabah is throne, Hekalot is palace, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I don't have that backwards. And so these are different traditions of kind of going through the various angelic floors of the angelic skyscraper, and meeting everybody on it as you're going up the elevator. It's like a glass elevator, so you see everything happening, and then you see all these like crazy different like wheels of fire, snakes with wings. A seraphim they're actually like burning snakes. Anyway, so like angels is a whole other discussion, but this is where we're rooting ourselves. We're rooting ourselves in that there are these beings that are trippier than fuck, that have been interfering in our lives as human beings since the dawn of time. Right? So what I like to, there's funny ways of thinking about this, right? Because of course, I think being a card carrying animist myself, everything, really viewing the world as everything is alive and everything has interiority. There's different ways of thinking about what angels are, right? Like there's obviously other types of beings than us in the world, and to think that we're kind of the quote unquote like the highest on the totem pole is nonsense. It's like, like your gut bacteria is totally alive and 100% a viable being. They live in your gut. They have no idea you exist, and yet what we eat influences them 100%, and what they're doing influences us 100%, right? So that's kind of a weird relationship. So angels, I think, could be something like that, right? There's And for me to be a healthy human being, I need to make sure my gut bacteria are doing okay. So I've got to eat stuff that's going to be good for my gut bacteria for me to survive and like live a healthy, happy, long life. You know, so we have mutual understanding and mutual benefit there, right? And if like I'm doing particularly bad things one day, like they're not going to have a good day either. So and vice versa. So there's something about kind of this relationship of like agenda has kind of like a negative term, but everything has a motivation, everything has an agenda, everything has kind of a bigger picture of their own that we might not necessarily be aware of. And I think angels fall somewhere in that category because they're clearly interested in us, but they've got their own shit going on and they just kind of interfere and lead us in directions when I think it's mutually beneficial for whatever their motivation is on the bigger picture of whatever they do. So then we get to the angel of the library. This is just a hilarious digital piece. I just adore this. So whether you picture them looking like this or like some other angel previously, that's fine. So the name of our angel is Harachel or Harachel. And that, of course, so here here we've got the Hebrew. So that's Hey, Resh, Chet, Aleph, and Lamed. So Harachel, right? And the so now we know their name. But what do they do? What do they do? What is this being in here doing? She's manifesting as feminine, you know, with her wings and stuff and this snazzy outfit, but she's turning this page to this book. So the angel of the library is the being that guides your investigations into knowledge. So if you've ever had the experience, I mean, when we used to go to libraries, right? Like, I love libraries, but if you've ever had the experience of pulling a book off your shelf or wherever, or even going to a bookstore, and I'll get to the internet part of this in a minute, but let's focus on books first. That when, you know, you take a book, you're like, oh, this is interesting. You know, you pick it up, you've never seen it before, you open it to a page, look down, and right there, the first thing you read is the exact thing you needed to know, right? This has probably happened to all of us. This is not that uncommon. So that right there is what this angel does. They guide you into picking that book, looking at that page, and then understanding that that piece of wisdom that you were just looking for, that you didn't even know you were looking for, was the right thing to read at that very moment in time. So they are the guides to this kind of synchronicity. I love this. So they do archives, libraries, cabinets of curiosity, which I think is a wonderful kind of side thing to be in charge of. Publishing, providing cross references through coincidence, chance occurrences. This is such an interesting aside. Protects against feminine sterility and makes children obedient to their parents. Sure, double duty, you know. Not only am I gonna like give you all the information, I'm gonna make you fertile and make your kids behave. Okay, you know. I love that. Like, you know, it's like you can kind of tell that there's this being that has done things all its existence, and then somehow books came into being. You know, because books weren't always a thing, right? Like, it's only relatively recently in the span of human history that books became a thing. And then it was like, oh, it seems that there's the same energy. I bet it's the same being. So what is this angel 59 of the Shemhamphorash. I can't ever say that. Shemhamphorash. What is that? What is this word that is very difficult to pronounce? I'm going to read something which will say it better than I as to what this is. So I've previously mentioned the Goetia. I am reading from the Goetia of Dr. Rudd. So Goetia is basically a list of demons. There are 72 demons in said lists. There are 72 angels in this Shemhamphorash. So I will read what it is. The names of these angels were obtained by combining the letters of 3 verses from the book of Exodus 14:19 to 21. These 3 verses in Exodus each contain 72 letters. By writing down the first verse right to left in normal Hebrew style, and underneath this, the next verse backwards from left to right, and under this again, the last verse written again right to left, you have 3 lines written. This is my new favorite word. Boustrophodon. Yeah. As the Greeks would call it, named after the direction oxen travel when plowing a field. And I'll explain this more in a second. These 3 lines should then be viewed as 72 columns of 3 letters. These are then read downwards, 3 letters at a time, to make 72 3-letter roots. Okay, so far so good. To each of these roots is added either the termination, which what you see here, the aleph and the lamed, L, or the termination, He and Yod, Iya, according to their sex. Bearing in mind that before modern times, the letter I, Y, and J, you should of course recognize the 2 great names of God, El and Yah, in the angel name endings. Thus are formed the 72 great Shemhamphorash angel names. These angels can be called in their own right, but for our purposes are matched up to a corresponding demon name. How this match is done is blah, blah, blah. So each of these angels is then can be matched to the 72 demons of the Goetia. So theoretically, the angels control the demons. So if you summon an angel because you want the demon to do something for you, the angel's gonna like be the one to crack the whip on that demon. You can just summon the demons directly. Also, you don't have to mess around with the angels, or you can just summon the angels directly, but it gives you options, and options are good. So let's go back a second to that boustrophodon word, right? What does that mean? So they're taking the sentence in Exodus that has 72 letters, right? So they're writing it in Hebrew, it's going from right to left, right? And then they're switching it and then writing it from left to right, switching it, writing it from right to left again. So that's the way the ox plows the fields. And this was this Greek way of writing where they would just write a text. Well, they went this way. They would write a text and then they would, on the next line, flip all the letters and write it this way. And then the next line, go the same way. It's this really bizarre. I'd highly recommend doing, you can do it in any alphabet. It's really trippy and crazy, and instantly kind of puts you in some altered state by just writing backwards in that way. And yeah, just try it. Try a sentence and do it because it's really fun. But so that's how they come up with these words. So now they've got 3 lines of text, you know, this way, and this way. And now you're taking the 3 letters that this has created and then adding an ending, an angelic or God name ending to each of these, depending on what, you know, I guess like it's weird saying angels have sex, but like I guess what sex the name was. So we've got that's how we've got this L at the end here. So okay, so we're clear on that more or less. This is angel number 59. Now, when I started going down this rabbit hole, I had no idea that this particular angel was that particular angel. So I didn't know it was actually connected to the research that I've been doing for the last like year at all. No idea. I was like, wait, what? This fits exactly into this place that I'm already looking. Of course it does. Of course it fucking does. That's how this works. The other thing that Bustaphedron word, this meandering ox plowing writing.
Christina, I've got a
Yeah.
quick question. I'm sorry to pop in. Are you moving slides? I'm still on the Harachel with the definition and the.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay, I didn't know if you
haven't
were
moved
changing
yet.
slides, and I wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
I didn't
no.
want to put them in.
No, good. It's just this one because I need to get to the bottom of it. I'm just still explaining. There's a lot. There's a lot in that little sentence. So, the funny thing with the word, this style of writing, is that I don't know if you guys remember the Lost, what is it? Is it Lost Civilizations? The podcast that I played about Easter Island, the Rangibro, right? They mentioned there that they found tablets of writing that no one has been able to decipher. Well, guess what? Part of those tablets, the way they're written, is not only is it in this Bustaphedron style, as you're reading it, you actually have to flip it 180 degrees. So it not only does this, you go and you flip the tablet 180 degrees to read it this way. And then you flip it again to read it the other way. So you have to physically interact with these tablets to read them. So it does the same thing, which is crazy. So that's funny. The other thing that I learned is if you guys remember, I'm Hungarian. So I'm like reading the Wikipedia about this. And it's like, oh, also the Hungarian runic writing, which is tattooed on my leg, that I've been obsessed with since I was like little and I learned it. Hungarian runic writing is written in the same way because they write them on sticks. So as you're doing it, you turn the stick and you go back and you turn the stick. So there's this interesting back and forth interaction with the runic writing too. Had no idea. Weird, right? So I'm researching the library angel, and I've somehow now gotten to Hungarian runic writing, which is like, wormhole, angel in action. So if that happens to you, that is the angel in action. So how do we call or say hello to said angel, other than just noticing that this happens, right? I would say that's number one. If you've gone down any kind of like research rabbit hole, you are in the loving arms of this being. And for the angels of the Shemhamphorash, they are all linked to a specific line in the Psalms. So this one is theirs. It's a salis ortu usque ad occasum, laudabile nomen Domini, Deus omnipatrans, which means from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, the word of the Lord is worthy to be praised. So it's kind of their like love language. You just get to say hi in this way and they'll be like, oh, hi. So while I was researching this, I'm also weirdly taking an angel course. Because also coincidence and synchronicity had nothing to do with this. It's just, and they're talking about like something else that's also weirdly coincidental. So because I'm taking this angel course, and they recommend to get this thing called the Angel Tarot, which is a shit tarot, but it's got all 72 angels of the Shemhamphorash. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if it's in there. And this is how I discovered it's in there. So I don't know if you can see the tattoo on my thumb that I self-stick and poked like several weeks ago. I'm right-handed. I mean, this is my right hand. I'm right-handed. Like I did that on my left with my left hand. That was terrifying and weird, but managed to get it through. And I don't know if you can see the sigil that's right there on the right side of the fucking card. What? I did this because it's also earth, right? But like, there it is. Weird. And this sigil comes from a group of Solomonic magical texts written by a Tos Graecus, which translates into the Greek Thoth. So, the god of knowledge, Hermes, basically. It's just saying Hermes wrote it, but it's also like the ties right back into all of the crazy other things that I'm looking at. So, just synchronicity, weird research rabbit holes, inaction. Like my heart sank to my like feet. I was like, what? And the other ones are incredibly ornate and detailed and like crazy all over the place. Much more like kind of what's the one on the left, that's like angelic writing. And then the sigils often are just as ornate, but this one is just a cross in a circle. Cool. Okay. I just want to share a little project I did years ago. So, this was 2005 to 2008. And I would just take these scraps of really nice art paper, and these were probably like 3 by 4 inches tops. Some of them were smaller, but most of them were around that size, some maybe a little bigger. But they were just scraps of, super nice thick art paper that I would draw on and color in. And I wouldn't sign them. It was really important to me that they were anonymous. And then I would go to the library and I would leave them in books. I would just open up and like not like try and figure it out. And I would just walk into an aisle. I would stand there and I would just pick a book and I would leave one of these in there, and I'd do like 5 to 10 at a time. And I always meant to write down which book I left it in, but I didn't. It's like I didn't keep very good track of these, and they're not signed. So it's like it wasn't important to me that anyone knew it was me that was doing this. It was more important that someone found this piece in this book whenever that book was taken out next, So just also, but the weird thing is look at the axis of most of these. It's that same cross axis, right? Which, just looking at these with fresh eyes, I was like, that's weird. That's weird. We're just gonna sit with that's weird. And what I think, if I were to think magically about this, I was making offerings to this being. I was using its own methodology and making offerings to this angel that is clearly such a part of my life. And whether it was making me do this or not is up for debate. I think maybe the angel wanted these somehow. So, okay, when and how. So an easy way, we'll work with how first and then we'll go when. An easy way to, I think, because, angels, it depends on your angel. Like, I'm not gonna just broadly say that all angels are safe. Like, you're fine summoning angels in your house. Like, I'm not good. This is a good time for the giant, like, warning label. I'm not allowed to summon demons in the house, like, for a good reason. Like, you don't try this at home, kids. Like, it's one of those things. Like, if you're gonna do an entire working, I would either get a Airbnb or like go outside or something, because it depends. Some of these powers are extremely volatile, they're extremely large, and I'm a demon advocate, so but at the same time, it's like, if you're gonna try and summon, like, one of the princes of hell, like, you might want to not do that in your living room just for shits and giggles, you know what I mean? Or if you have children in the house or stuff like that, like, just don't do it. Angels, I think it again depends on your angel. Like, if you're gonna summon, there some of them are they're helpful, but they're not helpful in kind of the way that maybe you think you want help. So I think being very clear on who and why you're asking them to show up is a good idea with any of these things. So, okay, disclaimer, warning label, over. This, I believe, this particular angel, the way they work isn't gonna fuck up your life per se. Maybe. I mean, they can all fuck up your life, but use with caution. So I think this one's totally safe to work with, is what I'm trying to say. Because they're kind of around all the time anyway. They're kind of, this is definitely one that I think has their has their, fingertips in all of our lives, and really uh, is interested in what we're doing. And um, I think thinking about it this way too, and that while I was kind of planning this, I was just kind of tossing this around in my mind. Like, if their goal is to put the right text or information in our hands at the right time, our right time, what did they want us to learn? You know? Like, if switch it. Like, if you're gonna give someone something, it's like the same thing. You're like, oh, I've got the best book for you, and you just hand somebody something. Or, it's like you've got the perfect information for somebody. You are hoping that they're gonna somehow read this, whatever it is, and it's gonna change them, it's gonna help them, it's gonna make them grow, right? So clearly, whatever's going on here, whatever larger motivation and agenda this being has, it is interested in us finding things out. It is interested in us learning things that better us, I would say, or at least widen our perspective, if nothing else. So that's interesting, right? Okay, so how to work with Harachel. Their name. The good one, if you've got, I can put that back up if you didn't write it down, but um an easy one for the angels is just contemplation of their name. Get the Hebrew letters out and just stare at it. Done. Easy. It's a nice, 5 minutes before you've got a writing project or something that you're working on, researching for something, one of the artworks we're making, whatever, right? Like, um and it's not just writing and research. I mean, obviously, like, there's so many different applications of like what you could be researching or looking for when you need to find information. Like, get the name out, write it on a piece of paper, and just stare at it for 5 minutes, and you're kind of, at least off in a better zone than you were 5 minutes earlier. The Psalm is a nice one. You can say that one. Latin is not hard to read. You can say it in Latin. It sounds cool. You can say it in English, whatever. And that's kind of a nice saying hello. That sigil, the other angelic, one of these times I'd love to do one about sigils also, and names, and where those crazy angelic letters come from is so fascinating. But I would use the simple cross one. You're basically, and if all else fails, you're just doing an earth cross. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not going to harm you in any way. I always think, these things like user beware, but a simple cross in a circle isn't going to, call something you don't want to call. um and of course, when you want to increase synchronicity, you want to increase your chance circumstances. If you're going somewhere, or you want to meet someone, or if you want to bring kind of the right person into your life, I think that is, for any reason, it's like, I want to meet the person that's gonna get me to point B in this thing I'm working on. Well, here you go. This is a good one. I think also, if you want to focus on your fertility, because I'm not sure synchronicity and fertility are kind of like very similarly related in a weird way. And when your kids are being monsters, I think is also a fair fair time. And that's it. So that's my slideshow. Let's go back to all of us. It's a shorty. But just a little share of kind of the synchronicities and kind of the weird ways this has shown up, just in doing this project. And just kind of realizing that there's kind of this guiding presence, at least in my life, that I really love, because one of my favorite things is the research wormhole is my favorite thing. The fluidity of finding one thing to a next, to another is so weirdly deeply spiritual for me, that it's like a form of devotion. But I didn't realize that I'm actually devoted to something, so that was kind of a cool little nugget of like, oh, there's someone there that's doing this, that's helping me. That's cool. I like that. And you know, so much so that they made me tattoo a sigil on my right hand, my dominant right hand that I work with. You know, anyway, there's all sorts of weird directions these things can go. So there you go. And then I would just love to hear, um, I don't, you know, if you've ever experienced this, if you've had situations where, um, you know, kind of the right thing at the right time, you opened the book at the right place at the right moment. Um, oh, I think just quickly before we get to there, obviously now we don't look at books nearly as much as we used to, I think, in a general um, level. But, you know, how does this work when it's the internet? Um, because, of course, in the internet, we've got the algorithm that is also behind, you know, behind the scenes, guiding, um, guiding what we're looking at, you know? So I don't know if the and when it feels like we're going down kind of a research rabbit hole on the internet, right? Like that's actually that can happen, that's real. But there's this other way of looking at it, that if you're like clicking at YouTube videos, right? YouTube has a really powerful algorithm that's going to show you certain things, and it's also predicting how many other people have watched this video that also clicked on this other thing. So they're putting this thing in front of you, um, that you're going to maybe on a high predictability level also click on, and then it keeps going from there. So I would hazard to say that that algorithm is not this being. That is potentially its maybe demonic counterpart, maybe. And that's an interesting idea, but it is not this. So do not mistake your YouTube wormhole for this. It is not the same thing. Um, and I think you can get into real trouble if you follow that YouTube wormhole too far down, right? We all know how that goes. And I think you can very easily get radicalized, and find out, you know, and then mistake it for actual research. And how often today do we hear people saying, well, I do my own research, which reality means what? You watch YouTube videos? That's not research. I'm sorry, it's just not. Like, no, no. YouTube can be an amazing source of information, yes, but it is not research when you're just going down the rabbit hole of YouTube algorithm videos. Um, just to be clear. So I think it's an important distinction, because I'm not sure, you know, that wasn't really like, we didn't have to deal with kind of a demonic algorithm prior to the internet in the way, you know, even 10 years ago, it didn't function in the same way. That algorithm has gotten very smart and very directed. And I think, you know, to I would say that if you are in right relationship with Harachel, if you honor this being in your daily activities, they will not let you go down that rabbit hole. I think that they are benevolent, and I think that they will protect you from becoming radicalized on YouTube. Because I think that other thing, that algorithm, um, you know, just has had a lot of like bad activity, so is not happy. And you know, I know Lisa and I have talked about this, but like someday I'd like to do like a quick, like, how to befriend your algorithm, and how to train your algorithm to like actually give you the things you want rather than the things it thinks you want. Separate topic, but similarly related. So okay, so yeah, that's the that is Harachel in a nutshell. And that is a glimpse into kind of how I work with my angel, apparently, which is what it is, which I didn't realize until doing this. And I would love to hear yours.